I'd like to introduce Hody from Hodiak Wildlife Solutions. And Hody, maybe you can say a word about your business?
Well, I do nuisance wildlife work, mainly a lot of prairie dogs and gophers. I do some coon work, beaver work, coyote work that's causing livestock damage and stuff. But most of the work that we do, like I mentioned, was that we do a lot of prairie dog work. The prairie dogs have just 10 times of what they were 5 years ago.
How many years you been in the business?
Well, I've been tied with wildlife for about 30 years. I retired from the government as a wildlife biologist for the Department of Agriculture in 20 years, and then I kind of started this business for something to do, and it is just taken off to be a full-time business now. I'm the third generation for this area. My grandfather homesteaded in the late 1800s, I think 1899, north of Cortez out there. They come through this country. We're from Chamas, so we've been here a while.
I know you've been using a gas machine now?
Yeah, we've got a machine that we call a PERC machine, pressurized exhaust rodent control machine, and it takes carbon monoxide off of a little 2-cylinder engine and runs it through a compressor and puts it into a tank, and then we run hoses off of that, and it runs that pressurized exhaust carbon monoxide into the hole.
And then 3 minutes later, the stuff is gone. It dissipates that fast. So it's not dangerous to like your pets. So, because that's what a lot of people worry about is, okay, you gas the hole, their pet comes up and digs up the hole, they're worried their pet's going to get sick, which is what happens when you put regular solid poison down. And with this stuff, there's not a problem.
Yeah, what is your success rate?
Most of the time we do 80 to 90% reduction in the overall population. It's real hard to do 100% just because of the influx from the neighbors, or prairie dogs come from long, a mile or so. Migration type stuff. When the younger get older, then they go looking for a new homes. But most of the time we can get them to a manageable state, and then we just do a maintenance program once or twice a year.
Yeah, we had talked about how many times they breed a year, and the fact that their young can breed even the same year that they're born practically.
Yeah, and most of the time the big older females will have 6 to 8 little ones, and then if they're born earlier in the spring, those females can breed back in later that fall and have little ones.
So you're talking 6, 8, 12, 18, 20s?
Yeah, and they just explode once they get settled into an area. They exponentially just grow when they're having 6 or 8 little ones, and it's amazing how fast they can repopulate.